In the grim darkness of the far future, the Imperium of Man classifies threats into three categories: the heretic, the traitor, and the alien. But the Tyranid is something else entirely. It is the extragalactic predator. Every other faction in Warhammer 40,000, from the ancient Necrons to the rising Toe Empire, shares a commonality. They are children of the Milky Way. They are bound by the same laws of physics, the same warp space, and the same historical tapestry. The Tyranid is the great other. It is an invader from the cold, crushing darkness that exists between galaxies. To understand the Tyranids, one must first accept a terrifying reality. Our galaxy is not a battlefield to them. It is a biological resource. They do not want to rule us, enslave us, or even hate us. You do not hate the wheat you harvest. You simply consume it because it is your nature. The origins, the pharaohs, and the long sleep. For eons, the Tyranids drifted in a state of near-total hibernation. In the void between galaxies, there is no heat, no light, and no life. The hive fleets were frozen monoliths, drifting through the vacuum. The catalyst for their arrival was the Horus Heresy, specifically the Battle of Sotha. In a desperate attempt to create a navigation beacon to rival the Astronomicon, loyalists used a xenos device known as the Pharos. During the conflict, the Pharos was overloaded and destroyed. The resulting psychic pulse was a scream that pierced the veil of the universe. In the darkness of the intergalactic void, the hive mind heard it. To the Tyranids, that pulse was a flicker of light in a dark room. It was the proof that a galaxy rich in biomass was nearby. With the slow, inevitable turn of a predator sensing its prey, the hive mind adjusted its course. It took 10,000 years of travel through the void, but the great devourer finally reached the edge of our reality. The hive mind, the soul of the swarm. The most common misconception about the Tyranids is that they are like insects, bees or ants. This is a lethal understatement. An ant colony is a collection of individuals following chemical trails. The Tyranids are one single mind inhabiting billions of bodies. The consciousness. The hive mind is a psychic entity of such terrifying scale that it dwarfs the minds of the chaos gods. It is not a god in the traditional sense. It is the collective biological will of every Tyranid cell in existence. When a space marine fights a Tyranid warrior, he is not fighting an alien. He is fighting a finger of a much larger beast. The shadow in the warp. Because the hive mind is a psychic titan, its very presence clogs the warp. This is known as the shadow in the warp. Psychic static. As a hive fleet approaches, the warp becomes a churning, impenetrable storm of white noise. Isolation. Astropaths, the Imperium's psychic messengers, are driven insane by the chattering of a trillion alien thoughts. They cannot send distress signals. Navigational blindness. Warp travel becomes nearly impossible. Ships trying to escape a Tyranid-targeted system often find themselves lost in the warp or shredded by its turbulence. The shadow is the Tyranid's primary weapon. It ensures that by the time the first spore falls, the planet is already psychically decapitated and alone. The Vanguard, gene stealers and lictors. The hive mind does not start an invasion with hive ships. It starts with information. Long before a hive fleet arrives, it sends forward Vanguard organisms. The Genestealer cults. The Genestealer is perhaps the most successful organism the hive mind ever evolved. These creatures are sent ahead, often via space hulks, to infested worlds. The Kiss. A Genestealer implants its DNA into a host, human, orc, or toe. The Subversion. The host's offspring are hybrids, half alien, half native. These hybrids are psychically bonded to a broodlord. The Insurrection. Over generations, a Genestealer cult grows in the shadows of the planet's hives or cities. They worship the Tyranids as star gods. Their goal is to sabotage planetary defenses, making the world ripe for harvest. When the hive fleet finally arrives, the cultists realize the horrific truth. Their gods haven't come to save them, but to eat them. The Lictor, the ghost assassin. While genestealers subvert societies, lictors subvert the battlefield. They are masters of camouflage, capable of becoming virtually invisible. A lictor's purpose is to scout the planet's strongest defenders, consume their brains to gain their memories, and then emit a psychic pheromone trail that acts as a homing beacon for the hive fleet. The scale of the threat. The Imperium's greatest fear is the iceberg theory. Inquisitors like Kryptman have theorized that the hive fleets we have seen, Behemoth, Kraken, and Leviathan, are merely the scouting tendrils of a much larger mass. If the galaxy is a bowl of soup, the Tyranids we have fought are just the first spoonful. There are maps in the Ordo Xenos that suggest the Milky Way is being surrounded from all sides. The Tyranids are not just attacking, they are enveloping. They are the inevitable conclusion to all life. In the eyes of the hive mind, the wars between the Emperor and Abaddon are nothing more than two children fighting over toys while a tidal wave approaches the shore. Biological supremacy. The living arsenal. If the hive mind is the brain, then its physiology is the ultimate weapon. The Tyranids have achieved what every other race attempts through machinery: perfection through biology. They do not use steel, fuel, or silicon. Their technology is grown from bone, muscle, and specialized tissue. The one creature concept. In Tyranid biology, there is no distinction between a soldier and its weapon. A Tyranid gun is a separate, lesser organism, a bioconstruct with its own digestive system and nervous structure, symbiotically fused to the hands of the larger warrior. Flesh borers. These weapons fire beetle-like larvae that, upon impact, spend their few seconds of life burrowing frantically through armor and flesh toward the victim's brain. Venom cannons. These propel corrosive crystals coated in hypertoxic metallic venom that can melt through a ceramite tank hull in seconds. The adaptive genome. The true horror of Tyranid genetics is their hyperadaptability. They possess a genetic library containing the DNA of every species they have ever consumed across multiple galaxies. When the hive mind encounters a new problem, it doesn't build a better machine, it evolves a better cell. If they face the heavy artillery of the Imperial Guard, the next generation of Tyranids will have thicker, ablative chitin plates. If they fight the Eldar, they develop faster reflexes and specialized psychic shielding. This is evolution at a forced, violent pace, turning the survivors of one battle into the victims of the next. 2. The First Tyranic War. The Behemoth awakes. For 10,000 years, the Imperium was blind to the coming storm. That changed in 745 M41, when the first great tendril of the hive mind, designated Hive Fleet Behemoth, smashed into the eastern fringe of the galaxy. The fall of Tyran Primus. The war began at an ocean outpost called Tyran Primus. It was a fortress world, well defended and remote. In a matter of days, it was gone. When Inquisitor Kryptman arrived to investigate, he found a planet stripped of everything. Not even the soil remained, only a barren, airless rock. This event gave the race its name, Tyranids. The path of destruction. Behemoth did not maneuver. It plowed through systems like a juggernaut. It consumed world after world, growing larger and more diverse with every planet it processed. The Imperium realized too late that this was not a localized Xenos raid, but a galactic extinction event. The Hive Fleet was heading directly for Macraga, the crown jewel of the Ultramarines. The battle for Macraga. This conflict remains one of the most legendary and bloody stands in Imperial history. Marneus Calgar, chapter master of the Ultramarines, realized that if Macraga fell, the entire eastern fringe would be lost. The siege. Thousands of bioships filled the skies of Macragge, blotting out the sun. On the surface, the Ultramarines fought a war of attrition against an enemy that could replace its losses instantly. The Cold Defiance. The battle was won in space and at the planet's polar fortresses. The Ultramarines' first company, the elite of the elite, held the northern polar fortress. They fought until their ammunition was gone. Then they fought with combat blades and finally with their bare hands. The cost of victory. When reinforcements finally broke the hive fleet in orbit, they descended to the polar fortresses only to find a charnel house. Every single member of the first company was dead, found in a circle of broken Tyranid corpses. Behemoth was defeated, but the Imperium had learned a bitter lesson. The Tyranids could be stopped, but the cost of doing so was almost unsustainable. The aftermath, the splintering. The defeat of Behemoth was not the end. It was the prologue. As the hive fleet was broken, its remains did not die. They shattered into thousands of splinter fleets. These smaller swarms drifted into the dark corners of the Imperium, hiding in asteroid belts or on moons, slowly consuming local wildlife and rebuilding their strength. They became a localized cancer, waiting for the psychic signal of the next great hive fleet to rejoin the hunt. The Imperium celebrated a victory, but Inquisitor Kryptman knew the truth. The Behemoth was just the first beast to reach the shore. The rest of the pack was right behind it. The Swarmlord, the apex intelligence. It was during these early wars that the Imperium first encountered the Swarmlord. Unlike other Tyranids, which are birthed and recycled, the Swarmlord is a unique entity. It is an ancient avatar of the hive mind, a military genius that has existed for millions of years. Whenever the hive mind encounters a foe it cannot defeat through sheer numbers, it downloads the Swarmlord's consciousness into a massive, four-armed body. It possesses a cold, alien tactical brilliance that has outmaneuvered the greatest generals in history. If the Swarmlord is on the field, the hive mind is no longer just eating. It is thinking. The Second Tyranic War. The Kraken's coils. If Behemoth was a battering ram, Hive Fleet Kraken, 993 AIM 41, was a web. Instead of a single massive wave, Kraken attacked on a front spanning thousands of light years. The strategy of encirclement. Kraken utilized splinter fleets to overwhelm the Imperium's ability to respond. While the military focused on one sector, 10 more would fall. The doom of Eandon, one of the most tragic moments in Eldari history, occurred when Kraken struck the craft world Eandon. The Eldar were nearly driven to extinction, forced to raise their dead as ghost warriors, wraith guards, just to survive. Tactical evolution. Kraken introduced the concept of feeder tendencies. They would lure Imperial fleets away from key worlds, leaving them defenseless. Though Kraken was eventually broken at the battles of Ichar IV and Hammond's World, it left the eastern fringe in ruins and proved that the hive mind could learn from its previous defeats. Hive Fleet Leviathan, the greatest threat. In 997, M41, the Imperium faced its darkest hour. Hive Fleet Leviathan did not come from the eastern fringe. It attacked from below the galactic plane. By traveling through the void beneath the galaxy and surging upwards, it bypassed the massive defensive lines, the fortress worlds that had been prepared for centuries. A two-pronged assault, Leviathan was so large it appeared as two massive tendrils stretching toward Terra itself. The Kryptman Gambit. In a desperate and controversial move, Inquisitor Kryptman ordered a scorched earth policy. He enacted exterminatus on hundreds of Imperial worlds in Leviathan's path, killing billions of loyal citizens just to starve the hive fleet of biomass. Octarius War. Kryptman even lured a tendril of Leviathan into the Octarius sector, an orc empire. He hoped the two races would destroy each other. Instead, the Tyranids flourished, feasting on the endless supply of orc muscle and evolving into even more dangerous forms. The consumption process, how a world dies. To understand the Tyranids is to understand their ecophagy, the eating of an entire ecosystem. The process is a masterpiece of horrific efficiency. The spore chimney phase. Once the planetary defenses are broken, massive towers called capillary towers erupt from the ground. They pump alien spores into the air, turning the sky a bruised purple. These spores dissolve native life and begin the rapid growth of Tyranid flora. The great liquefaction. Special organisms like pyrovores and haraspexes roam the surface, consuming everything. Trees, animals, and people are herded into reclamation pools, vast lakes of hyperacid. The atmospheric sucking, huge organic straws reach up from the hive ships into the upper atmosphere. They suck up the oceans, the oxygen, and the biological soup from the reclamation pools. The dead husk. When the hive fleet departs, the planet is a true dead world. There is no soil, no water, and not a single microbe remaining. It is a sterile ball of rock, forever silent. The Fourth Tyranic War, the Gnosis Prime Crisis. In the current lore of the 10th edition of Warhammer 40,000, the threat has reached an unprecedented level. While the Imperium was distracted by the Indomitus Crusade and the opening of the Great Rift, a new, even larger wave of Hive Fleet Leviathan has appeared from the galactic west, the White Phosphorus. This new invasion force is hitting the Segmentum Pacificus, threatening the very heart of the Imperium. The Soulblade fleets. High Lord Leontus has been forced to assemble Soulblade task forces, elite groups of Space Marines, Custodes, and Sisters of Silence, to intercept the swarms before they reach the Segmentum Solar. The Swarmlords return. The Swarmlord has been spotted again, leading the assault on Gnosis Prime, proving that the hive mind is focusing its supreme intelligence on decapitating the Imperium once and for all. The final mystery, the end of all things. The most chilling realization for the scholars of the Ordo Xenos is the size of the swarm. Every hive fleet encountered so far, Behemoth, Kraken, Leviathan, is now theorized to be merely a sensory organ for a much larger intergalactic entity. If you imagine the Tyranid race as a great beast, the Milky Way hasn't even seen its teeth yet. It has only felt its shadow. The Tyranids represent a soft apocalypse. While chaos burns and orcs fight, the Tyranids simply exist to finish the story. They are the ultimate janitors of the universe, destined to clean the galaxy of all life until nothing remains but the cold, dark silence of the void. The Tyranids are the perfect enemy because they cannot be reasoned with, bribed, or intimidated. They do not care for your emperor, your gods, or your history. They are the inevitable hunger. In the end, there will be no glory, no monuments, and no memories. There will only be the Swarm. The Fourth Tyranic War. The Grandillis Crisis. We are currently living in the era of the Fourth Tyranic War. This is the most recent update in the Warhammer 40,000 timeline, 10th edition. The Segmentum Pacificus. For the first time, a massive west wing of Hive Fleet Leviathan has emerged. This is catastrophic because the Imperium had focused almost all its defenses on the east and south. The Sanctum Line. Lord Solar Leontus has established the Sanctum Line to protect the path to Holy Terra. The war for Gnosis Prime has become a meat grinder, where the hive mind is deploying new, terrifying bioforms like the Norn Emissary, massive, specialized assassins designed to kill specific high-ranking targets, like chapter masters or custodes. The Psychic Awakening. As the shadow in the warp grows thicker than ever before, the very fabric of reality is thinning. The Tyranids are now actively evolving to hunt demons, creating specialized anti-warp organisms like the Kronos Hive Fleet which feeds on psychic energy. The ultimate question: what if they win? If the theories of Inquisitor Krypton are correct, the Milky Way is already doomed. The iceberg theory suggests that the total mass of the Tyranids currently in the galaxy is less than 1% of the total force. If the Tyranids win, the silent galaxy, every star will eventually orbit a collection of dead, airless rocks. There will be no orcs, no humans, no chaos. The Great Migration. Once the Milky Way is stripped of every atom of biomass, the hive mind will simply turn back toward the void, entering hibernation once again as it travels to the next galaxy, perhaps the Andromeda Galaxy. The end of the warp, without the psychic noise of sentient beings, emotions, hate, love. The Chaos Gods would starve. The warp would become a calm, empty mirror. In a strange way, the Tyranids are the only ones capable of truly defeating chaos by eating everyone who gives chaos power. The Tyranids are the perfect predator. They do not suffer from corruption, fear, or doubt. They are an army of trillions acting with the unity of one. As the Fourth Tyranic War rages on, the Imperium is learning a bitter truth. You cannot defeat hunger. You can only delay it. The galaxy is screaming, but the hive mind is not listening. It is only tasting.